Real hustle, real people, real results.
Hey everyone, Chris Kiblin here over at Real Hustle, where we talk to real people who have real results. And the concept of our show is to really bring in entrepreneurs and really talk about how they started their business, to give us some ideas and some successes that they've had to share with everyone. But first, if you could help support us and help support our cause, if you can go to our website at realhustle.com, check out our merchandise. We have t-shirts, we have hats, we have hoodies, we have all kinds of great stuff, so that really does help support what we're doing here to get the content out. I am super excited today to have somebody here that probably one of my favorite beverages is coffee, and we got somebody here that actually started a coffee business and has a very cool concept of how he came up with it. So I want to just welcome Justin Banister here.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Chris, for having me here. Yeah,
I appreciate it. All right, so the name of your coffee shop is called
O&A Coffee and Supply.
Okay. All right, so let's backtrack a little bit here, because I'm super interested to hear about it. I've heard a little bit about it before. So take me back how you got started in this business.
Into the shop or into coffee in general?
Let's just start with the coffee in general and work our way up.
Man, so coffee in general, I'm actually only one of two people in my entire family that drinks coffee.
Oh, wow.
Which is kind of funny. So my grandfather and I are pretty much the only ones that do. Raised by my mom, that single parent kind of household, and always really respected and looked up to my grandfather. And I was 5 or so, just always watched him drink coffee. He's that GI generation. He wants it black and boiling is how he ordered it.
Nice and
hot.
And
I was like, yeah, Grandpa drinks it, I'm drinking it. Okay. So I started at about 5.5 years old, drinking coffee on the weekends with my grandfather.
Nice. That's good memories, right?
Yeah, it really is.
So all right, so now you started drinking coffee, and then how did you start getting into the coffee business?
My first real, introduction into really the world of coffee is actually very different than a lot of other people's. I was kind of not that greatest kid growing up. I think a lot of us kind of have some of those stories and all. And my mom decided to be a good idea for me actually to go on a mission trip when I was 13. And my mom, my sister, and I went to Venezuela. Spent a lot of time in Caracas and a lot of time in a small town called Maracay. And just coffee is such an important part of the Venezuelan culture. And so I just started drinking coffee, and that's when I switched to drinking completely black coffee. Was at 13. And then every summer after that, I started going overseas back to Venezuela, to Costa Rica, Ecuador, all these other countries, and just learning more about that, Central and South American culture, but also learning how important coffee is to that culture, and how it's such a different community aspect versus here in the States, where it's almost more of a commodity and I need this, whereas it's like I need this with other people. So it's kind of a different perspective, and that's really one of the things that drew me into, I think, coffee is the actual culture behind it.
It's pretty interesting. So now, did you figure out which coffee, like who had the best coffee?
At a young age, or
when
now?
When you were doing those trips.
I loved Costa Rican coffee. I was just so immersed in that, and it was probably a course of over 5-6 years that I was spending, every summer in Costa Rica.
Oh, wow.
Venezuela had gone pretty much on full lockdown. We weren't allowed to have visas anymore, all this other stuff. Because you're talking late 90s, and Chavez taking power and a lot of political stuff going on. So I was spending a ton of time in Costa Rica, and just right on the side of the Irazu volcano, and they say that coffee is the drink of memories.
Oh, wow.
And I can truly attest to that. I remember sitting on the side of the volcano, literally watching it sulfurically erupt while sipping coffee with my friends, and so it always holds a special place in my heart, I think.
That's awesome. That's a cool story. Because it's always interesting. That's one of the things that I love about doing this type of podcast and doing stuff, is because you get to share your story and your experiences that you just don't know about, right?
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of this, is how did you get here? What it was that caused you to get there, and you really learn from his background. Most people probably just see you as the coffee owner, right?
Yeah.
They don't know how you got there.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's fast forward a little bit, and when did you actually start working in a coffee store?
After college, I actually went in and did, I graduated college during the middle of the housing boom. So I was like, screw it, I'm going back to trim carpentry. I was a carpenter by trade. Housing boom was going on in Florida. I'm going to pay off all my student debt, which I was fortunate enough to do. And then the housing market tanked,
Right.
2005, 2006.
Right. Right.
Pretty much lost everything, but didn't have debt, so that's cool. And went into sales because I can sell stuff. I've
Right.
always been good at it, you know. And did telecom sales for a while, and just I'm behind a computer and I hate it. I was like, I'm not meant for this. And gave my 2 weeks notice and walked out, and went and took the lowest paying job I've ever had in my life, and started as literally a barista at Starbucks. Geez, I guess it would have been like 2008,
Okay.
2009, something like that. And then 2 months later was in management, and then took over training programs, and then took over everything else. So it was a very rapid like climb, and I'm a very immersive person. Like if I want something, I'm going to immerse myself in that because I love it. And then quit Starbucks and started doing consulting for other shops and helping other shops do build outs. And then we started O&A. April 23rd would be 6 years ago when we started O&A.
So tell us a little bit about, because I've heard a little bit about the story,
Sure.
and tell us a little bit, because you didn't start in the store at first.
No,
So
not at
tell
all.
us how you started that part.
So it's
Explain.
kind of an interesting story because for me, I love community. Like, I'm from Kansas City originally. You know, we have a saying there called Midwest modesty. It's like we're all polite, like we're
Right.
nice people, you know. And I noticed as I got more and more immersed in craft coffee, so not your Starbucks, not your Dunkin', like real craft coffee, there's this really sad joke/truth where you can say, you know how good your coffee is by how pretentious your barista was. And I hate that because it's so true. And you're like, oh, well, you don't know about coffee. And you're like, dude, you're making bean water. Like, calm down. Like, and I didn't want to fall prey into that.
Right.
I didn't want to become that arrogant guy making, essentially water with some beans in it,
Right.
for somebody. And so I wanted to get out of what the world knows of craft coffee and into something new. And I figured you can't be real arrogant when you're on the street.
Mm-hmm.
So I built a coffee cart, 6.5 feet long by 3 feet. Going back to my trim carpentry roots, built a bar, set a machine up on it, got a permit with the city to be a street vendor in the city of Sarasota, and rented 6.5 feet by 5.5 feet of sidewalk, and set up there for almost over 4 years.
Oh, wow.
Literally on the street. Every morning I'd bring my trailer down, I'd roll my whole cart out, weighs about 650 pounds, roll it out on the street, start up a generator that was quiet, and make people coffee right there on the street.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool
So-
concept, and that's kind of unique because most people aren't
Yeah.
thinking like that, and so like to go in and start a coffee cart
Mhm.
type of thing, especially because I guess my next question is, especially when you got Starbucks and you got Dunkin' Donuts and you
Sure.
got these big chains to compete with them,
Mhm.
That's my next question is, how did you compete with them? Because obviously you have something special that
Yeah.
you were able to do something that they're not doing.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about that.
So I think when you look at a lot of places like that, and then even when you look at your mom and pop craft coffee shops, when you have a brick and mortar, you're trying to bring the community to you. So we took that aspect completely out, and what we started doing was we started going to the community. So when you are a mobile bar, like, you're vulnerable. Like, I'm just a dude standing on a street corner. Like, that is exactly what you are, is you are a vulnerable person out there. I'm getting rained on, it's super hot because it's Florida.
That's right.
And so people just really started coming up to us, and the big difference is I remember their names. And when someone comes back up a second time, and I've only ever made them a coffee twice or once, and I can be like, oh, hey, you want that same coffee with just like a splash of milk in it, just like you had last time? Chris?
Right.
And like their brains explode because they're like, wait a minute, this person, I'm important to this person.
Yeah.
And when you can create that sense of community and that sense of I matter to a customer, then they're going to come back forever.
It's
So-
it's strange because in my world, it's relationship building.
Absolutely.
Right. And the thing is like, and I'm a big believer in relationships. Even though we always are selling something,
Mhm.
I believe in relationships.
100%.
And so if you can build a relationship, even the cost doesn't always matter, right?
Absolutely.
You can be more expensive than the other guy,
Mhm.
but because of the relationship that you built with them, they're going to trust you more.
Yeah.
And because they were like, I would rather have that service than
Yeah.
if I went somewhere else.
Yeah, and I mean, to that point, we are, to my knowledge, obviously things change. So, to the best of my knowledge, we are the most expensive coffee shop in Sarasota.
Oh, wow.
But I also have the most expensive coffee, so my cost is higher than anybody else's too. So it's kind of one of those, like, I'm not the Ritz-Carlton, and I'm not gonna treat you to where you have to, wear a suit. Granted, I am wearing one, very nice one made by a friend.
He was a guest last time.
I know, shout out for John. And but we're gonna remember you, and we're gonna treat you like you really belong here, and that this is a safe environment.
Right.
So
that's awesome. So, all right, so we got the cart now.
Mhm.
So how do we transition into the brick and mortar? How did that happen?
For me, I'm very anti-investor, anti-business partner, all of that. Like, I don't want people telling me what to do. I've been an entrepreneur for too long in my life. I've always run my own businesses. The last thing I want is some investor that's just some shadow dude in the background being like, no, you gotta serve vanilla now. And I'm like, that's screw, dude, I'm not serving vanilla. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
it's your
so,
baby.
Yeah. And so I literally had a customer that for a while, it was probably about 2 years, was like, hey man, like, I really want to actually be your business partner. I was like, no, screw that. You're not gonna be my business partner. And it took him about 2 years to wear me down. And he's a good friend of mine, and he does real estate. And so he is completely in the background, doesn't, not involved, nothing. And but he gives me someone to bounce business ideas off of. And finally I was like, you know what, I think I actually do want a brick and mortar. And I wanted it, kind of oddly enough, I think my main aspect wasn't even about really making more money. Obviously a brick and mortar is going to make more money. You're going to have more overhead, everything else. But I was watching this era, especially in craft coffee, where employees don't matter and no one looks out for your employees. Let's be real, that sucks. Right. And I'm watching people not making a living wage, not being valued. And about 4 years ago, I guess it was 3-4 years ago, there was this wave of these people coming out that were like stealing tips from their employees, sexually assaulting employees. And it was this massive black wave that went across the coffee world. That, like, if you're not involved in coffee, you'd never hear about it because they're all small shops, Right. And I was just like, you know what? I have the community already behind me. I have 2 employees already that have left toxic work environments to work for me. Like, I think we can do this, and I want to do this, and I want to give not just my customers a safe place to come. I want to give my employees a place that you can now not only be a barista, but you can actually say that that's your career without, like, embarrassment. I mean, because these people are trained professionals.
Oh, yeah. I know. I told you, my son was one, and he was a barista and for another coffee company, and, like, I mean, it's a talent.
Yeah.
It is definitely a talent.
Yeah. Because
I seen him, and I'd go and watch him, and I just, like, dang. I mean, because all the different drinks and all the different ways of making things, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And to remember all that.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, we have 5 employees right now, and my employees range from ex-DCF caseworkers. One of my employees is a marine biologist. He ran fish farms and aquaculture for years, worked for Moat.
Wow.
One of my other employees is was a regional manager for another coffee shop. And so it's these people that had different, like, toxic work environments that I love working with them, and they're just great people, and it's also the big difference of, too, like, they're not my family. I'm going to look after all of you, but you're not my family because I have that work divide, and I think that's an important thing that some people get caught up in and all that kind of stuff too. So,
cool.
Just running an honest business, man.
That's awesome. So, I saw your logo.
Yep.
It's a lion.
It is.
So let's talk a couple of things about that. How did you come up with the lion logo? How did you come up with the name?
So O&A actually is a throwback to our original name. So we used to be called Out and About Coffee.
Okay.
Because we were out and about,
right.
And we still do the mobile bar, we still do catering with the mobile bar, we do farmers markets with it, so we still stay very active in our community. That's like that's our heartbeat back to the community, so we always want to do that. No matter how many stores I open, we will always still be doing that mobile bar. So once we opened the brick and mortar, we just shortened our name.
Okay.
The lion, we have kind of 2 stories, with that one. We like to tell customers, coffee's origin is Africa. Lions are from Africa. I like cats. There you go. So that's kind of like the quick short story. But originally, actually, when we opened the brick and mortar, we were going to change the name.
Okay.
And we were going to change it to Humble Coffee. And I like the idea of a lion because the lion may be, the quote-unquote king of the jungle, but the lion isn't the one that says that. So they may be the best, but they keep their mouths shut and they let other people say it.
Right.
And so I kind of like that aspect.
Okay.
It's like, we can keep quiet, and we can be the best, but we're going to let other people say it, not us.
Okay.
And so that's kind of where the lion came in. And turns out there's a Humble Coffee also in the United States already.
Wow. Okay.
Turns out the founder of that coffee is a trademark lawyer.
Okay.
So that did not work out.
Gotcha.
So, but we loved the logo and we loved the story of the logo, and so we kept the lion as it, and it's recognizable, and it's cool for branding and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. I like it. I like the line. No, it definitely says something, and the Q&A is pretty cool as well. All right. So let's ask you this. Obviously, you guys have your own, and so what is one of your favorite drinks? What's one of your specialty drinks that maybe nobody else has? Give us some scoop on that coffee.
So for me, this is my enjoyment. This is like my zen in the morning. This is my cup of fresh air, literally.
I'm gonna have to try some.
I love black coffee. So die hard with it. All of our coffees, we do single origin, so it's going to be from one individual plantation, one individual farm. If I can't name the farmer that grows it, we don't serve the coffee.
Okay.
So that's our philosophy.
So what kind of coffee is this?
What you are sipping right now, this one is a Colombian. It's from the Hueda farm. This is actually roasted by my good friends in Denver, a place called Sweet Bloom. So not roasted by us, but we like to bring in other people to help that culture and to help other shops.
Gotcha.
But I love this. You're going to get nice, like almost like a Heath bar kind of tasting notes. You're going to get a little bit of like a lemon on the finish. So I love just sitting down, drinking black coffee. Like that is my jam.
Okay.
So that's what I love. Now I'll say two of the things that we are very well known for is our cold brew. We own the patent on how we make it. So we are the only people that make it that way. We invented the entire system.
So without giving away too many trade secrets, tell us a little bit about that then.
So we do what's called the Kyoto style, which is named after the town in Japan where they've been making cold brew literally for centuries. But the problem was no one had updated the system in centuries. So what we do is we actually are able to do full water temperature control instead of just letting water sit out. And so it's a drip type system where we're keeping our water, depending upon the beans, anywhere from 48 to 54 degrees Fahrenheit. It's slowly dripping over the beans in an oxygen-free environment that drips into our kegs. And it drips straight into a keg. We seal those kegs so it's never exposed to oxygen, and then we age them under pressure for 4 days. So when we actually pour it and you drink it, unlike a lot of like cold brew where it almost leaves you like a chalky feeling in your throat and you need to drink like water afterwards, it's actually juicy.
Okay.
Like we live in Florida, like it's hot. Like you want something that's refreshing, but you still want some coffee.
Right.
So our cold brew's king. It's kind of one of the things we say. But for like weird drinks, I'd say probably our most popular weird drink, we call it wake up juice.
Okay.
I learned about it in Peru with some coffee shops down there I was working with. And it's literally 6 ounces of orange juice, 2 shots of espresso.
Really?
Yeah. Sounds super weird.
It does sound weird, but I can see where that might work though.
Yeah. The acidities like cancel each other, so it almost tastes like a chocolate orange. Super tasty. So.
Okay. Cool. I have to get over there and try that one.
Yeah, man.
So, all right. So, for our viewers out there, give us something like so. Obviously, you've had some great success from this, right? If you could tell somebody who is in the business or trying to be in business, what would you recommend to them? What is one of the biggest things you say, okay, I did this or I learned this, or give me some success that you can help somebody else? Because that's kind of what we want to do. We want to help grow other people, right? We want to help other entrepreneurs, salespeople, whoever it is, grow. So, got anything like that?
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of people that want to start a business that have never worked in that business. So people will see coffee shops and be like, I want to open a coffee shop, then work for one. And I think that is a huge thing, is if you want to start something, if you want to be in finance, don't just start a finance company, go work for a finance company. Because you don't actually know if you really want to do that.
Yeah.
Like me, I still love being behind the counter and being a barista. I still love making drinks for people. Like I like the planning and the making the business grow and the new shops we have come in and all of that. But I still want to just make some drinks every once in a while. And if I didn't love doing that, I wouldn't be successful at this. So I think that's one of the most important things is work in the industry that you want to make a difference in. and see if you really want to be there. And then the other thing is learn from people. So for me, I started reaching out to other coffee shops all over the world and being like, hey, I want to do this. Tell me one thing I need to do or one thing I need to learn. And I mean, there was a guy in Dublin, Ireland that was probably the most helpful. And I mean, he actually literally wrote the book on what I know about running a coffee shop. That's what it's actually called.
Okay.
And I opened it up and I was like, wow, here's a job application. I can use parts of this, you know, and it was just those things that you don't think about when you want to run a business successfully. And so definitely reach out to some people that are running what you want to do successfully, figure out what they're doing, and then figure out ways that you can make it your own.
Exactly. That's something that I preach a lot, actually, even in my industry, right? It's like, you know, there's always somebody who's going to be doing it bigger, better than me, right? You know, and so I always would be like, okay, who can I learn from?
Absolutely.
You know, because they're making it work, right? So if they're making it work, but I don't want to do what they're doing, but I want to try to take some of what they're doing and make it my own.
100%.
Because if you make it your own, you're going to be more successful at it because it's yours.
Right.
You know, and I do believe wholeheartedly in that, because it's just one of those things you sit there and go, all right, this is mine. This is my baby. This is what I put together. And you put in this blood and the sweat and the tears and everything else, and you just make it your own. And it's just like you'll go for it harder. So a little bit more, because I've heard you say this a couple of times. So, all right, so I know you got the location down in Sarasota, right?
Yep.
So are we looking at growing? Are we looking at franchising?
Oh, absolutely. If you're not growing, you're dying. I mean, that's die hard on that. So we have the location on Main Street. We have the mobile cart that is still active, very active actually. And then we are under construction out in Lakewood Ranch. So we have our second store going into an area called Waterside Place.
Oh, yeah, I know where that is.
Yeah.
That's where I live.
Yep. So we're going to be expanding out there. We'll be in the first phase of that area that's opening up.
Nice.
So pretty stoked on that. Looking at probably August, September. We have our next location already planned out, and we'll be down in South Sarasota in Gulfgate.
Good location.
So we
That's
have
good
that area
too.
coming down. That probably won't be, I'd say, November, December, realistically. I want to make sure that, you know, Lakewood Ranch is growing before, you know, starting on the next one. And then from there, really focusing on our actual roasting and wholesale. So right now we have about 25 wholesale accounts already that serve either our coffee or our cold brew or things like that. And always looking and planning and innovating and, you know, roasting more and more coffees and doing other things that we can do and other craft beverages that we can do. And just, like I said, you know, always growing.
So that's a whole nother separate type of revenue then, right?
100%, yeah.
So you're taking your product, your bean, and then you have other people using it in wherever they're at?
Yeah. So instead of going like a franchise model, why don't I help you create your business, and now it's yours. You have something to believe in. You have something to pour your heart into. And then what we do is I literally will buy all the equipment that you need. You pay me for that equipment at only 10% upcharge, so I'm not making really any money, you know, and then you just buy beans from me. That's it. But we're going to be here to support you completely along the way, and now you have something that, you know, it's part of you, not just a franchise of me.
Right.
You know, and so we've done that for, geez, I guess we have about 7 mobile bars throughout the United States that we've helped people build.
Okay.
And 2 stores internationally, and then about 4 other stores here statewide.
That's awesome.
That other people have started. So
I mean, and this is crazy, right? It's all started from your just having coffee with your grandfather to now you're like you're global almost.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I mean, you know, just for that love of coffee. That's awesome. So tell me about, obviously, you know, being business owners or being whatever you're trying to build, we always have struggles, right?
Sure.
Tell me what some of your biggest struggles with trying to achieve this.
Man, not to sound like, you know, I'm beating a dead horse with like everything you already hear all over the news and everything else, but I need to hire probably 20 to 25 employees by the end of this year. Took me 3 to 4 weeks to hire one.
Well,
I was like, that's going to be a rough one.
I've been hearing quite a bit of that with business owners lately. It's tough for them to find the employees, and right now it's a tough market.
It is.
Got a guy that I know. He owns a cleaning business. Same thing. He can't get anybody to come in, and that's so. How do you overcome that? What are you thinking?
I mean, for us, we're a little bit different than, you know, a Target or a Walmart trying to find somebody. You know, one, we actually pay very well, and our tip rates really well. And, as we expand, here within the next year, when I'm a planner, I'm planning for what can I do better, not just for the company, but for my employees. And I keep my employees clued in on that. So here within the next year, our goal is to have full health care for them. We already do like a bunch of like other things to help with that. So we have more of a desirable, platform to work in. But at the same time, my job application is 4.5 pages.
Oh, wow.
To work at a coffee shop. So most people don't even fill it out, which is great. I don't want you to work for me then. And so, I'd love to have an answer for what I do to fix that. I don't have one yet.
Okay.
We have a lot of people that's word of mouth that like, you should work for this guy, which is kind of cool.
Right.
But yeah, I don't have a perfect answer for that one for sure.
What's the reasoning for the 4-page application?
I want to know if you're committed. Like realistic, and it's not rocket science. Like some of the questions are like, describe your best customer service experience. Just tell me about a time that you received good customer service or a time that you gave someone good customer service. That's all.
Especially in that business, right? It's service.
But what it tells me, it lets me know if you're self-aware. I had one employee talk about how she walks up to the Publix deli and they give her a slice of the meat to make sure it's okay. Cool. That's not the best customer service I've ever received, but I know she's thinking about customer service.
Right.
So that's what matters, So we have something like that. And then one of our last questions on that is describe what working for an honest company means to you. And I want to know, I think that's an important thing. So
those are good things. I mean, because the thing is like who you hire is really resembles you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's an image of you, and because you're the owner and everything else, right? So, and it's one of those things, and it's the same thing in my world, right? Who I hire, who I bring on,
right?
Because it is. I mean, we're all, even though we're all a team, and you're the boss and everything else,
right?
We're all still one,
right?
And we have to look at it from that standpoint, and really just because they don't care. Like, so if they give bad service, they don't care if and so it's not just that person, it's the whole thing. And as small business owners, that can hurt. And trying to build it, and that's a big thing. That's what I find amazing with what you're doing, is because there is a Starbucks popping up every place. There's a Dunkin' Donuts popping, Wawa, all these people are popping up. But the thing is, though, I like more of a specialty niche coffee, right? I like going to a mom and pop or whatever, a small store, and giving my money to them, because obviously I know that they're going to, you're helping out a family, you're helping out, somebody else. And not only that, you just said it, the service, right?
Yeah.
I'm a big fan on service, and I'm a big fan on how I'm treated and how I'm taken care of. Somebody remembers my name, that makes a difference.
It really does.
And really, and that will go a lot farther with me, because I just look, you're going your extra mile, and that's how I treat my clients. That's how I treat my people, right? And that's really, and it's something. I'm just not a number to you, right?
Right.
And I think that's where we come from. A lot of times we see corporate America, they just treat us like numbers. They really don't care. They just want to make more money off of you, right? And so I just want to give back, and and that's the thing that's nice about this is you have a certain style that you want to give back to the community and give back to how you do business, and the price doesn't always matter. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so what do you? Obviously, you talked a little bit about how you talk to a bunch of different people as far as across the country, how to run your coffee shop, how to do all this. What do you do to keep it going? Obviously, you got to keep it going, right? Because the competition is out there. You got a tough competition.
Yep.
And so, what are you constantly doing to get either new ideas, new products, to keep you guys in the forefront of what's going on?
I mean, obviously, everything right now, especially with media, with having the world literally at our fingertips, everything is changing faster than ever. So some of the things that we do is, obviously, I'm looking always at harvests and what's coming down the pipe. So for instance, the Colombian coffee that we're drinking right now, this was harvested in February. So you have to look at that time delay, from harvest to getting it. Now, granted, what you're buying in a grocery store was harvested 2 years ago and it's super old, whatever. Yeah.
It's really that old?
Yeah, super old. Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it?
I'm never to buy that coffee.
Yeah. So we always want fresh stuff. So for one, especially in the craft industry, I'm always trying to stay with my mind on that. So you really have to stay in touch with international affairs. As of literally this morning, Colombia has stopped shipping coffee.
Wow.
I don't know when I will actually be able to import from the whole country of Colombia because of the civil unrest that's going on there. So that means my fall harvest, or the fall crops that I'll be serving, I might not even be able to get those. So I might not have Colombian coffee till next year. Or with all the hurricanes that came through last year, Guatemala and Honduras were down about 60%.
Jeez.
Because the hurricanes just came through and wiped out those plantations. So I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get those coffees next year. So it's the longevity planning is a huge deal because I always want to serve that fresh cup.
Yeah.
The other thing that really I think keeps us relevant is we have motivated staff. One of my guys, he's always looking into what is the newest product out there that maybe we can bring in that can actually help us. Because we are, it says and supply. So we're here to actually supply people for their home machines and all this. So we have to keep up with the newest supplies that are out there. Gotcha. Even if it's something as simple as like a really good to go cup, and I have my guys doing research on all that stuff because they like it.
Right.
And so that's one of the things they come back and they'll be like, hey, dude, you hear about this? And I was like, no, I didn't. That's awesome. So it's not a whole business relying just on me. It's a whole business relying on everybody to constantly keep growing and being relevant. And I think that's awesome.
So the supply part of it. So you guys ship everywhere, or
Yep.
So
yeah.
And so if they want to go on there, they can actually go to what's your website?
oandacoffee.com.
O&A.
Very simple.
Okay.
Yeah.
Easy to remember.
Super.
So they can go to your website, order your coffee, and
Yep.
then do it. So that's awesome. Okay. So anything else you want to add to our conversation today? Anything else that you think that might add value for our listeners?
Oh, man. Geez, it's always a question I feel like I should have a great answer for, I just say, just make sure that you actually plan time for yourself just to sit down and enjoy. I'm a workaholic. That's one of my biggest struggles. I love to work. I would gladly work 100 hours a week because I'm that guy. But if I don't sit down in the morning and just breathe and take a sip of coffee, I'm going to implode. And so just that little moment, just make sure that, man, you want to start a business? Awesome. You want to actually hustle? Awesome. You want to make a real difference? It's awesome. But just sit for a little bit, breathe, sip some coffee, and you'll be good to go.
I think that's a lot of our problems as people like us, right?
Yeah.
Or the entrepreneurs out there, people who are trying to be successful because you're trying to grow a business, obviously. I get the same thing. And I hear it all the time from my wife.
Yep, me too.
she's like, I feel like I never see you anymore. And I'm like, well, because I'm always working. And I was like, so, and I'm always doing something because, not only do I run my mortgage business, I'm running my Real Hustle business, I'm doing podcasts, and so it's like I'm always running somewhere.
Right.
And so she's like, what's your name again? So we have to make sure that, especially so we take Saturdays off. So Saturday is when we go and do our thing, and it's just that day. Doesn't always work out, but for the most part, I make the attempt, right? And so I think it's very tough. And, we talk about like a work-life balance. It's hard for us, because we want to be successful.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of times also we realize that we have the struggles that we had at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And we never want to go back there.
Right.
And that's with me. I know what I struggled for before, and I'm like, dude, I can't go back. I just can't. And so I'm like, all right, just keep going, keep hustling, keep going, and that kind of thing. All right. Well, this concludes our show. What's your website one more time?
oandacoffee.com.
And where can we where's your store location at?
So we're at 1316 Main Street. We're down between Palm and Gulfstream on Main Street in downtown Sarasota. Pretty much the last building before you get to the water.
Oh, that's nice.
Big giant line in the window. You can't miss it.
Can't miss it. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming out and doing the show with me. And
Thanks for having me.
All right. And we'll talk to you next time.
Awesome. Thanks.